need to buy yourself a gun. What? Gun? What? Like a handgun. For personal protection. Maybe somebody tries to mug you. What? What if your government tries to throw you in a can? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo. Gun? Yeah, gun.
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun. Before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Jack booty cops in riot gear. Gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun. Before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun. Before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun. Before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension fund. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun. Before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun. Before you wish you bought a gun. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta drag them through the streets.
It is Tuesday. It is September. We are live. My name is Michael.
My name is Nicholas, and we are happy to be here, folks.
Thank you for listening to PrimerTime, and a special shout out to all my simpletons and country bumpkins in the audience.
Wow.
We appreciate you being there. Yeah. Looking up some definitions on something, and I found those two words used in a definition that would actually apply to me. So I'm kind of going to embrace the slur. So yeah, my simpletons, my country bumpkins out there, welcome.
That's like I usually just get called a redneck.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what they call them now. At the time, it was just simpletons and country bumpkins. So. Anyhow, welcome to PrimerTime on UCY.TV, your home for everything wonderful. This is PrimerTime. My name is Michael. I'm here with my brother Nick, and we are here to talk about guns.
Sure are, and I got an interesting story coming out of Honolulu, Hawaii. It's a place that I actually used to live, and I can tell you right off the bat, the purchase of a firearm in Hawaii is about as difficult as any place that you could ever expect to do, maybe with the exception of Washington, D.C.
Now, in Hawaii, you have to have pretty much similar to a firearms owner identification card. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, certainly. But here's the process, which is crazy. In order to be able to purchase a firearm, first thing you have to do is be able to transit the island and get downtown, which is a task in itself, and go to the Honolulu Police Department's main office on Queen Street, and you have to do a background check. So right off the bat, before you've purchased anything, before you've filled out any kind of ATF forms, you're going down to the local police department and identifying yourself as somebody who's interested in purchasing a firearm. After that, you got to go.
Have started your file.
Exactly. So you wait for that check to be run. Usually, it takes anywhere from 48 to 72 hours. Go ahead, get your check back that comes up clean, and you can go to whatever gun store that you want to make your purchase at, whether it's a big box sporting goods store or one of the many specialty stores on the island, and you go ahead and you make your selection. Then with that selection, you go ahead and take the serial number of the weapon that you intend to purchase, and you go ahead and you go right back down to the police department, and you let them know that this is the weapon that you wanted to purchase. And the reason is because the police department makes sure that weapon's not on a list of weapons that are prohibited in the state. And then they're going to go ahead and do another background check on you, depending upon how many days have elapsed since your last background check. Once you come back clean with that, you get another, permission slip to go back to the gun store to pay your money and actually receive the firearm. But you're not done there yet, you're going to have to take yet one more trip down to the police department with the purchased item and have them go ahead and enter that into their Honolulu Police Department gun registry.
That sounds like an extreme pain in the ass.
It is. So in addition to that being an extreme pain in the ass, the Honolulu Police Department, just within the last couple of days, melted down over $575,000 worth of police firearms that were basically being replaced by newer models. These were Smith & Wesson 9mm guns, and about 2,300 of them, with 200 of them were brand new, not even been issued out. Those were actually, they were just, you would consider it to be demilled? No, they melted them down. And the reason is because the mayor, Kirk Caldwell, and the Honolulu Police Department agreed that they would not allow the guns to be sold to the general public and end up on the streets of Honolulu, according to the police spokesman, Michelle Yu. So here's my whole thing on this. You have a police department that runs background checks just as a matter of this. The single most important thing that they do, apparently, is anybody's trying to buy a gun. But the police department sides with the mayor saying, we don't want these guns to end up on the streets if we were to sell them. How is that possible, considering you run 3 background checks on anybody that ever goes to buy a gun? And you're the organization that does all the records keeping.
I'm sorry. We're not using any logic at this time. This is merely an emotional response, and please keep your response to the knee-jerk variety.
Yeah. It's insane to me. So, anybody that's ever been to the state of Hawaii, and especially to the island of Oahu, knows that they're not exactly rolling in tourist money out there, because Americans are too broke to go on vacation. They're relying on folks from Asia. So, yeah, you would think that a $575,000 windfall for the police department or for the city itself would be something that would be better used.
And now let's take a look at these Smith & Wessons. Did it happen to give a model number of the Smith & Wesson?
I'm looking at the report right now, and of course, they don't tell you exactly what the model is.
It's a black Smith & Wesson handgun, the most dangerous kind of all.
Yeah. So, but the story does say that the force is upgrading to the Glock Model 17. So here's the point.
We can assume then that the pistols are either in the 59 series Smith & Wesson, which was a decent gun, but it's a dated 3rd generation design, or it could be something that is some Glock copy, say like the Sigma or the SD9VE, or possibly even M&P's the newer polymer pistols. Those prices are going to run anywhere from $300 to about $500 on the used market. I don't think that. Well, gas is more expensive. Everything pretty much is more expensive in Hawaii, as you know.
Oh, yes, I do.
I would imagine that same disparity in pricing also translates to firearms, and then there's also probably another price disparity just due to the insanity of the laws on firearms there. So I'm guessing that the $300 or even a $500 Smith & Wesson.
It could fetch anywhere between $750 to $900.
Right. So yeah, this is some short-sighted action on.
But see, I don't think it's short-sighted. I think that this is by design, because when you hear what the police spokesman Michelle Yu has to say about it, she said that the Honolulu Police Department reached out to the Honolulu County Sheriff's Department, to which the Sheriff's Department says, no, we would have taken those firearms, and nobody attempted to reach out to us. And I think that's indicative of the mindset out there, is that, they're just totally believing that a firearm in anybody's hand, other than the people in charge, is unacceptable. And that's the kind of result. It's guns for no guns for thee, yet guns for me. Yeah.
And it's not even guns for them, because they don't have honestly, I hate to almost take it down this path, but I mean, it's time for like real talk. We don't have firearms for our Second Amendment right to hunt ducks. That's not why the founding fathers,
Yeah,
pretty
no,
much protected
they
that
didn't put
God-given
that in the
right.
Bill of Rights for no reason.
Right. The reason is, and this is not, I guess it's controversial to say it in these times, but the reason is to kill politicians. I mean, that's really just the simple of it. I mean, George Washington and the founding fathers didn't write angry letters and petition their Tory masters. No, they killed them.
Well,
I mean, they
I think that
didn't write angry
people
letters to the
forget that
governor.
this is a nation that the origins of which are founded on violent revolution. And violent revolution, after having to have dealt with a series of grievances that were aired and ignored. So, you can say, hey, the parallels are there. I think that the problem is that there was a sense of nationalism at that time that has long since fled the building.
And yeah, that's another good point. That's absolutely a forbidden thing to be nationalistic. You shouldn't be proud of where you're from, or enjoy where you're from, or like where you're from. You should embrace the multiculturalism and get your diversity and your cultural enrichment.
Yeah,
hey, we got a
works
question here, real
for
quick.
Rome, right?
Right, absolutely, every time it works everywhere it happens. Right.
Yep.
I got a question for you out of the chat, real quick, regarding Hawaii and its laws. If firearms are difficult to obtain, and by firearms we mean cartridge discharging weapons, what about a bow or a crossbow, and what about a black powder weapon?
So I can tell you that buying a bow or buying a crossbow is fairly easy. You can just go ahead and make that purchase right at the store. Muzzleloader is probably. Go ahead.
No registration on the bow or anything like that?
No, because it's considered, number one, it's considered a traditional weapon, and number two, it's very unlikely that somebody is going to commit a crime using a bow or a crossbow.
If they are, they're pretty damn good at it, I guess.
Well, I mean, if they can do it and get away with it. Because, after all, you're on an island,
Right. Okay, so what about black powder?
Well, number one, on Oahu, the reasons to use a black powder, which would primarily just be hunting, because very few, if anybody, go out to target shoot with a black powder, other than to make sure that it's dialed in with the scope. On the Big Island, you have opportunities to do hunting, so you're going to have to go through and do the same thing. However, you gotta worry about transiting between islands, and that brings in the whole thing about taking a firearm on a plane, and it's just a pain in the ass.
And then, if you go by boat, bringing a firearm into a port, and here in the state of Texas, we have something called the TWIC card, and it's Texas Waterway Institutional Safety or something. I don't know what it is, what it stands for. But
if you're going to go between island by boat, you're going to be doing it in a passenger craft, because all the native Hawaiians basically banded together to get the Hawaii Super Ferry, which was supposed to be a commercial passenger ferry that went high speed between the islands. They got that shut down. So there's no commercial entity that goes between islands. You're doing it by air, or you're pretty much not doing it at all.
Yeah, well, no private boats or nothing like that. Yeah, I guess that's one of the risks when you live on a great big rock surrounded by water.
Yep. So, but yeah, I think, like I said, the biggest thing to see there is that it's an institutional mindset. That's a state that's been controlled by a certain group of individuals since it became a state. They've had a Republican governor. They had Linda Lingle, who was of the tribe, and then they've had a whole lot of folks on the other end of the aisle. And the Hawaii state legislature has always been controlled. It's like California further west.
Well, that's it. That's interesting. Having a governor of the tribe, is how representative of that of the population is it? I mean, that's not one of them.
Yeah,
would be a demographical oddity, is what that would appear to be.
That sure is. So.
All right, so once again, we're seeing on every gun rights to be. I like to refer to the incident in Roanoke, and looks father of the slain reporter, which we can all understand his grief. He's coming out and he is a large advocate for gun control. He should be the gun rights lobby's worst nightmare after he buys a gun.
Yeah, so this is not too far away from where I'm at, and you never want to criticize somebody who's lost a family member. Putting it this way, by all accounts, it sounds like the person. I don't even think you have to say that he allegedly did the killing when he videotaped himself doing it.
Right.
I think it's people are well within their justifications to say that the guy who did this genuinely was not right in the head. So we have the problem again with somebody who was not mentally stable. I mean, the guy was escorted away from the station when he was fired by police because he became belligerent and combative. So, this is not a situation like you would expect to see a formerly law-abiding gun owner who goes out and just snaps and commits a mass killing. No, this was an individual who as he was self-described a human powder keg waiting to go off. I mean, this is the whole reason why the big schism exists between people who advocate for further gun laws and people who say we have laws. These laws would not have prevented a crazy guy from doing an action that only he himself knew he was going to do. And
really, the gun just the firearm in this case actually just enabled him to do it at this time. If his goal was to actually kill somebody and kill them on TV, he could have waited until they were broadcast from someplace in a parking lot, and he could have run them over with a car, and it would have been nearly as impressive as the video, and probably led to less questions.
Well, I think that here's the problem. You have a very vocal group of people who want to see all guns removed from American society, and they'll cite every kind of study that they can produce, everything that's been funded by Mayors Against Illegal Guns, and the Moms Demand Action. All those people, the
Rolling Stone Institute for Journalistic Integrity.
There you go. And not only that, but they converge upon people who have just suffered a loss, like the father of the female reporter. They'll converge on them quickly. They won't even allow these guys time to properly mourn. And like I said, far be it for me to criticize a guy who's speaking his mind right after his child has been killed. He can say whatever he wants to say. However, I think that as time goes on, he realizes, and what's even more importantly, I think the anti-gun lobby realizes that he's got a very, very short shelf life. And, in a matter of months, I won't say that this will be forgotten, but in a matter of months, you take a look back to the families in Newtown, between certain family members saying, hey, we realized that this wasn't the gun that did it. This was a crazy person. Those people didn't get the publicity, but this guy's willing to stand up and say what they want to have said. And of course, they're going to parade him in front of every news organization Saturday and Sunday show that they can. And that's exactly what's happened.
And the people who appear to stand and represent the gun owners, and I'm referring to the NRA specifically, and I'll also throw in the Second Amendment Foundation. It seems that they delight in putting on somebody who doesn't really do a very good job of representing our interests. The NRA, honestly, I really wish the NRA would just shut the fuck up. They have a tendency to really make problems worse, and I think they don't add to the discussion, and they don't actually necessarily represent the firearms owner. The Second Amendment Foundation, run by Mr. Alan Gottlieb, which fine Irish last name right there. We're going to say that I don't believe that they actually are working for us. I think the Second Amendment Foundation is kind of like a red herring. I think they're infiltrated, and Alan Gottlieb has endorsed the Manchin Toomey bill. And, he's not on our side.
Yeah.
These are people who don't understand the, all or nothing. They understand the slippery slope. And they're really not looking out for us.
Well, that's the thing. I think that you take a look. You got a guy like Senator Manchin out of West Virginia. He's a liberal in a state that has very conservative beliefs, and I think that had it not been for the fact that a lot of those folks were pretty poor and bordering destitute, their values kind of run contrary to the people who represent them in Congress.
Right, and I think you can say that about everybody. The 535 retard pile up in Washington D.C. I think you could say that about every one of them. They don't really represent the will of the constituents.
Oh, no. They totally represent those people who are willing to donate to their campaigns in the greatest amount.
That's right, and I'm not giving them sons of bitches, not a dollar.
Yeah. So
not a dollar.
Let me kind of switch gears on us. One thing that I wanted to go ahead and point out to our listeners, there's a growing trend among these anti-gun groups. Basically, going to their blogs, they've got some pretty disturbing things out there, and basically, it can make anyone who's either an open carry guy or a guy or girl or a concealed carry guy or girl make you pause for a second. There's an alarming increase in the number of 911 calls going out and basically making accusations against people who are observed to be open carrying. And this is causing a large reaction by police. And what's even worse is that these organizations are encouraging their followers to embellish their claims in order to draw a larger presence to make a larger scene and or cause harm to the individual who's carrying a firearm. So personally, to me, this is a pretty dangerous precedent that they're trying to entice people to basically create a false police report, and their stated objective is to not allow outdated gun policies to leave them in danger. So I think that you have organizations that are really saying, hey, we're going to go the opposite of Gun Owners of America, and we're going to be the no compromise anti-gun lobby, where if you don't do exactly what we say in terms of giving up your firearms, we will go ahead and use the legal authorities to our advantage against you.
And see, this is where the hypocrisy comes in, because they don't want you to have a gun, but they want your gun taken away by somebody with a gun.
Exactly. And not only that, I think what they're going for now is they're going for the ISIS or the Al Qaeda, manipulate the media aspect of it, because the biggest thing that they want is they want to see a confrontation between somebody who's legally carrying or legally concealed carrying, and they want to have that confrontation videoed as these people are descended upon by police. And wait until it's the 87-year-old woman who's got her concealed carry license, and she's carrying, and she goes into Walmart to get her curlers, and she gets descended upon by the Harris County SWAT team.
R.I.P. Grandma.
Yep, that
R.I.P.
that won't go. That'll go over like a turd in a punch bowl.
Because Harris County ain't got no problem in shooting your ass dead.
Yeah. So this is the thing. I think that there's a group of people out there across the country, and I'm not saying that this is a small group. This is a large segment of population who genuinely believe that your Second Amendment right to have a firearm for your own protection, your own defense, does not exist in their eyes. It's just
right, and it threatens them.
It does.
That your firearm that's done nothing, that your firearm that is secured on your waist or secured in a safe or sitting on top of your fridge or on the nightstand or wherever it is, it's threatening them and their lifestyle.
Right, and you can see it all the time. There was a story that came out, and basically what it comes down to is individuals who are displaying the NRA's, their NRA Stand and Fight logo on the back of their vehicles, or just the NRA shield. There was a story out there about what an individual who is anti-gun thinks when he sees that sticker. And
please Please regale me with his emotions.
So
Anything that may have triggered him.
exactly, and his emotional diatribe basically went out to say, when I see that NRA logo, I think that somebody behind that wheel is basically a loose cannon, somebody who is going to go ahead and take his gun to do bad things at the drop of a hat. And I'm sitting here thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? This is supposed to be the folks that have, the Enlightenment. These folks tell us that they're educated, and they don't
Would you
want
like
to
to join my Simpleton and Country Bumpkin organization? Because it sounds like you're a member already, and you just don't even know it.
Well, it gets hard to carry cards. So just to kind of give you a quote, basically the name of the story is what your reaction to my NRA sticker says about you. I see that an NRA decal on the rear window of your car, and my eyes narrow. I look at the back of your head in the driver's seat, and I wonder if you're a threat to my children, a threat to me, or a threat to society. And I think that sums it up.
It's a good thing that she doesn't have brakes in her car or nothing like that, because you've got a dude ahead of her. All she got to do is hit the brakes and get some space between them, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a very, very narrow reading of the article, and you can actually pick that up at the Liberty Zone. But I think that when you take a look at it and you sit there and think that, you know what, if looking at a sticker on a car makes you fear for your life and the life of your kids and society that you live in as a whole, isn't that an irrational thought?
But this, you can't even begin to deal with rationality or anything like that anymore because it doesn't exist.
Well, I think rationality does exist. I think that the problem is that we have such a vehement opposition to your individual right to own a firearm that rationalism doesn't exist when that argument comes out, because it's an emotional argument. And the emotional argument to them is that they don't have the intestinal fortitude, or what we would call in the Army guts, to stand up and defend themselves and their family or their property. And they expect that society's law enforcement is going to do that for them, is going to be there for them. They're abdicating their responsibility to take care of themselves and their family, and they have to fear others who don't want to say, you know what, I'll depend on somebody else, who don't want to be self-sufficient, who would rather put their lives and their families' lives to their good judgment.
Isn't that the essence? Isn't that the essence of the welfare state? Let somebody else do it, and I'll just reap the benefits.
Well, yeah, that's part of the idea. And we've talked about in the recent past months about cities bringing up ordinance requiring all the citizens in their towns to own a firearm if they're legally able to do so. There's pushback, but then again, you also got to look at it the other way. The governor of my state has just restored rights to felons in over 1,900 cases. So it's kind of interesting to me. You would want, as a governor in your state, you would want people who have been convicted of felonies to be able to have their rights restored, not just so that they can buy a gun, but so more importantly, they can go ahead and vote for you in the next election. That's crazy.
I think that's exactly what it is, and they're still playing the vote game like the vote counts. And I personally don't think that voting counts because, well, honestly, all it counts is who counts the vote.
Yeah, but even aside from that, when you restore the rights of 1,900 felons, what does that say? That says that it doesn't matter what you've done. Your debt to society may have been paid in full, but there's got to be some kind of stigma attached to you. And I know we're all about not assigning stigma to people and not having something lasting that follows somebody. Well, I'm sorry, folks. From the dawn of time, the first guy that ever farted in a cave, people kind of looked at him funny for the rest of his life until he got eaten by
Og. There goes Og. He farts a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So you know
what they call you? They don't call him Bob the Bridge Builder, right?
That's right. You build 1,000 bridges in your lifetime. Tell you what.
That dude don't even own a lawn.
So, it's just interesting. I read that story, and I kind of shook my head, and it's crazy because when I get the idea, when I think in my head, they say, hey, here's the demographic breakdown of the average gun owner in the United States. It's a white male between the ages of 30 and 55. He's undereducated, and he works in a 9-to-5 job that's below.
Simpletons and country bumpkins rise up.
Yep, I think that goes back to the bitter clingers. I think it all rolls into the same thing. But here you go. When you look at it from the opposite spectrum, and when I think of the individual who's an anti-gun advocate, I think the definition they call it now is hipster. These guys with these beards that they try to cultivate for months, which usually takes me about 2 days on a hard weekend to grow.
Yeah, I get fairly hairy.
Yeah,
I just like.
So I'm thinking it's these guys in their Prius or their Yaris or whatever the Greek god of fucking good fuel economy is, whatever they name it after.
Greek god of electric vehicles.
This is what I think. I think that you're afraid to offend the fossil fuel emitting vehicles, so you have electric. You're vegan or very close to it because you don't want things to die for your sustenance. You make sure that you drink fair trade coffee because you don't want Juan Valdez not to pay his coffee pickers enough money. I mean, this is the same argument, and I think that if you let a sticker dictate to you what a person's intentions that you perceive to be, I think that says very little about you as a person to begin with.
Well, yeah, I would have to agree with you on that, and then there's just a lack of logic in this, and I mean, who's to say that that's a girl, it's a 16-year-old girl driving her dad's truck, and maybe the 16-year-old girl doesn't know a damn thing about firearms.
Well, if she's in the country, I guarantee you she does.
We'd like to see think that, but there's a lot of city people with trucks too.
Oh, they are, but they're like the Chevy Colorado. They're not the 1500.
Why are you hating on poor people with fun?
Hey! Ladies like something called full size trucks for a reason, right? They even said it in there. They even said it in the commercial where it said I think it was the Chevy commercial that said, "Hey, do you want to drive with the guy who has the Chevy Colorado, or do you want to have the guy that has the Prius?"
Well, the guy with the Colorado could almost tow the dude with the Prius.
Well, I'm sure he could put it in the back of his truck. I mean, all he's got to do is have a ramp.
Right? Yeah. Where it seems we're in a very a cultural battle that's more than a cultural battle. It's a fight for what our beliefs are, and it's under assault at every opportunity, and they have to take the firearms because your firearm is your last best way to say no, I do not comply.
Well,
and
not only that, I think that
not have that ability. You will comply.
I think that it's even more than that. I think that people understand that the difference between a citizen and a slave is that citizen's ability to defend himself. And honestly, you take a look and what prevented slaves in the 1800s and before 1865 from rising up and emancipating themselves. Well, I would say it was a severe lack of firearms and their ability to defend themselves. So, we have many, many instances of this throughout the history of our nation and other nations, to be sure. That
we don't even have to go that far back in history. Let's just go to something that happened in the fairly recent past. Let's look at Bunkerville. The Clive and Bundy story. The Bureau of Land Management. Whether let's not get into the whole detail of whether or not the guy paid his taxes or whatever. But they were going to come in there and take his cattle. They were going to take his land, and a bunch of people with guns said, no, you are not. And guess what? They didn't do it.
Yeah, but that's not to say that they won't do it in the near future.
And that's true. And yes, it would require another group of men with guns to go out there, or men and women with guns, because there are some very good shots out there. And we got 2 women that passed the Ranger training course or whatever it was, Special Forces or Green Berets or something like that. But it's going to take them to come out with the guns again.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I think that a lot of people, they glance over the fact that we have a Bill of Rights in this country, and we have what we call inalienable rights that are granted by our God. And those rights have to be protected. And it's not our politicians who are protecting them. It's the individual citizen that's willing to stand up and protect them. And if you're not willing to stand up and protect you or your rights, then I think that, number one, you've abrogated your responsibilities as a citizen of this country. I mean, that's a pretty simplistic view, but there's no sense in going into the legalese because I'm just a Hispanic redneck.
That's right. That's right. Welcome to the official meeting of the Country Bumpkins and Simpletons. Let me say, if these people abdicate their responsibility, how are we going to deal with that? Since we have no legal recourse, we have no standing anymore.
Well, I think first off, anybody who's willing to abdicate their responsibilities is one less person that I'm going to be willing to defend in terms of if shit hits the fan, and Nick has to stay home and pull the trigger. Well, I'm not helping you defend your land if you're not willing to defend it yourself. Why am I going to put myself in that kind of situation? No,
I would have to agree with you.
Yeah.
I would have to agree with you. If it does come time that you have to stay home and pull the trigger, you take care of your family and you take care of the people that will help take care of you.
Well, that's
right now, but before the shit hits the fan, because I don't know. I mean, I'm just a regular guy. I don't have any access to top secret shit, but I watch the news. And I'm not necessarily a Fox News viewer or a CNN viewer or anything. But I pretty much take a look at all available sources. I'm fairly able to read between the lines. And this whole mess is unsustainable. So the time that we're talking about, the time to stay home and pull the trigger, that's a definite possibility.
Yeah,
it's not crazy talk.
But here's the thing: anybody who basically states that they have a belief or a deeply held belief that it's incumbent upon them to prepare and take care of them or their family, automatically labeled as a crazy, as a wacko, as somebody who's a or a birther, prepper, whatever marginalization they can throw at you.
Well, you have to demean the enemy to build it up, right?
No. See that? Yeah. We tried to do that in the early days of the war with Saddam. We tried to do that by writing things, much as our soldiers and airmen did during World War II. And that didn't go over very well. We actually had soldiers get court-martialed for such things.
For writing on bombs and stuff like that?
Writing on artillery shells, yeah. Happy Ramadan gift, Saddam. Yeah, nope. Article 15, buddy. You can't demean the enemy. You can only kill him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is the political correctness gone wrong. And if we're going to look at that, political correctness will extend to the gun rights, because guns are not politically correct.
Yeah. Well,
guns are
never going to be
the lack of guns enables the political correctness to continue, and really that political correctness comes out of Marxism, and I believe it was Leon Trotsky came up with the term political correctness, and it was basically used to stifle debate with a lot of other terms. Racist is a term that's used to stifle debate. Conspiracy theorist is a term that's used to stifle debate. And once you can demean somebody, it doesn't matter what their information is; they're just automatically crazy. And
that's the definition of the ad hominem attack: to detract from the credibility of somebody by making a nonsensical statement or argument to the contrary.
And you'll see that everywhere. Any sort of social media or or any kind of electronic, let's say, a news story that actually still allows comments in a comment or has a comment section, you'll see that number one, they're brigaded, and by brigaded I mean there are active groups out there working to suppress comments of people. So it's not necessarily a grassroots effort. You'll see that certain viewpoints are being pushed. Shout out to all the Hasbarats tonight.
Yep, count your shekels, folks. Count your shekels.
So, the best thing you can do is to buy a firearm, become familiar with it, have a goodly supply of ammo, have a goodly supply of magazines, make sure the firearm is functional, that you know how to use it, and well, in the end, you have to be willing to use it, because I don't want to sound like fear porn or anything, but this is unsustainable, and it is going to come down. We're seeing race war pushed at every opportunity. We're seeing a brewing war on the cops. There's a war on your morality. I don't know if you were able to catch any of the MTV Music Awards, but Jesus H. Christ, welcome to 1929 Berlin. This is the height of Weimar decadence.
Thank goodness, I must be like the bad Tony Robo with cable, because I don't get that stuff. But thankfully enough,
yeah. I just happened to catch a little bit of it, like news clips of it, and
yeah,
it was fairly disgusting what I saw.
Well, I mean, and like I said, if you're of the generation that still believes that MTV plays music videos, yeah, that was not for you. The whole thing there is marketed towards the millennials and the newer generations that are coming out. Yeah, it's a different group of people, and these people have been raised wholly on propaganda since the time they were in kindergarten, to believe that anyone or anybody that espouses holding a gun or owning a gun is a good thing. That's an evil person. That's a person who's going to kill you. And it's one of those things that it makes you think that the game in a sense is kind of rigged, because we don't have open debate in this country. We have people that call for it, but when they call for it, they don't go ahead and disclose their biases out front. They'll come to you under the guise of, hey, I want to foster a good dialogue. I want to have an open forum to exchange ideas. They'll use all the educated, the mantras that are out there. They'll do everything they can to get somebody who's actually got a deeply held belief in the value and the basically the responsibility,
the morality of this country, the traditional morality of the country.
Yeah, and they will go ahead and get them out there, and they'll try and destroy them at every turn. So, but before we go any further into that, Michael, I wanted to go ahead and just kind of throw a little public service announcement out there. We're getting into September. Where did the year go already? Back in the days when you and I were growing up, school wouldn't start for about another week. But now in this day and age, my kid's been in school for about 2 weeks now. So
yeah, school's been going on for about a week here already.
Right. So one of the things that's coming up is you're going to start seeing hunting season starting to go hot in different locations around the country.
It is shotgun time, people.
Yep. So dove hunts are coming up, especially down in South Texas. We've got
I'm really stoked for dove season. I love bird hunting.
So one of the things that I was wanting to get out to our listening audience is to make sure that we go ahead and start doing some of that maintenance that may have been neglected during those dog days of summer. Take this upcoming Labor Day weekend and really get into your firearms, give them the good once over, give them a good cleaning, and do an inspection. Inspect some firing pins, inspect some actions, cycle the bolts, see if you're catching any metal on metal contact that shouldn't be catching. Make sure that your stocks haven't expanded or contracted due to the heat and
or molded up, depending on your humidity situation.
Exactly.
It's really hard to see wood that gets mold on it. It really is. A finely finished stock that ends up with mold is a heartbreaker.
Well, not only that, you could make a case for saying, hey, I took my shotgun out in the rain, and I live in a fairly salty climate, and I didn't clean it off immediately. Now we got some exterior rust on the barrel. That's one thing. But if you go ahead and you put a rifle in your safe, and you've got some kind of humidity control, and you come back, and that same stock is cracked from the back of the action underneath the handle area, and then back up around to the other side of the action. That's gonna ruin your day when you try to go out there and shoot it. That happened to me, folks. And that was just during a deployment where I went to Iraq for 15 months. So no matter how well you take care of your firearms, things can happen when you're not looking. And you want to make sure that you take a little bit of time to go ahead and check over that weapon, make sure that it functions, and if need be, before you get into rifle season, you definitely want to make sure that scope is sighted in. Get out to a range, spend an afternoon, take a kid shooting, verify that your zero is accurate and your bullets are hitting where you're aiming, and that way you can be ready to go come the days where it gets a little chilly in the morning and the deer start walking around looking for love.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting my ass out there with a couple of friends and looking for some flocks of dove coming over. That's really what I enjoy doing. Maybe getting 50 of them and getting them ready, because you get 50 dove and you've got yourself a hell of a barbecue for a bunch of friends. And really, that's what this is about, right? It's about building family. It's about building friendship. It's about building community and keeping yourself safe.
Well, and there you go. You got to think
we can all enjoy.
We can all enjoy, and we can even enjoy it better if, in the process of doing all that dove shooting, that you've gone to the store and you've shot a couple packages of bacon and been able to take them home too, and some jalapenos, because nothing says Labor Day weekend like bacon wrapped dove or jalapeno poppers.
Make sure you put a couple bullets into that cream cheese too, because there is nothing like a duck Diablo, and we'll just give that recipe out real quick. You take a duck breast or a dove breast. You take a seeded jalapeno. Make sure you take the seeds out of the jalapeno, please, especially if you're going to share it with anybody. You take a slab of cream cheese and squish it all together and wrap it up in some bacon and throw that on the grill. That is an excellent meal, and it's fairly cheap, and it will make friends for a long time.
Yeah, it will make your toilet hate you for a long time, but like I said, who cares what the toilet says?
I don't think so. This is something we discussed a little earlier about, the quality of fast food and foods in general. I think if you're taking dove, straight out the sky, you're not getting half of that crap.
Well, and that's the thing.
I've not had kind of like stomach discomfort anytime I've eaten any kind of any hog or any deer or any dove or any fish out of that we've taken. It seems that as I get older, my constitution appreciates the natural food a lot more than the store-bought prepackaged methyl ethyl death recipe that comes from.
Yeah, well, I think that even with we've had a movement in this country going towards grass-fed and versus grain-fed. You can't get much more grass-fed than deer, and once October starts showing up here personally in this area, our bow season starts in 3 days now, and the mornings still aren't chilly. We're still 60, 68, 69, 70 degrees in the morning, but come October, we're going to dip down into the 40s. It's going to be a big change, and you get a chance to get out there early in the morning. You start hearing those shotguns, those volleys. You hear the ducks, the Canada geese are coming in. For our folks in South Carolina, I think they still get a chance at some sandhill crane, teals, woodies, all those different varieties of ducks.
Do not shoot whooping cranes, no matter how good and tasty they are.
Yeah, you might end up in jail on that one.
Actually, sandhill cranes are not legal in my area, and I think they're only legal for I think it's maybe only about a 2-week span. There's something about the migratory habits, and I'm right up the road from a wildlife conservation area, and I don't think we can shoot sandhill cranes after geez, I don't remember when it is. I think it's a very short window that you can get them out.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like I said, different places across the country have different species that are protected. One species that is not protected in many states is coyote. It's actually not treated as a game animal, and
It's a varmint.
it can be,
And
it can be treated as a varmint for us out here. It's a non-game animal. There's no tag, no daily limit, and you want to talk about getting an opportunity to really put some long range shooting to the test. I've heard of some folks out there using some of the Wildcat cartridges and taking coyotes at some extremely long distances. I mean, shots that I personally wouldn't take. We're talking in excess of 350 yards. But being able to call these coyotes in and then putting the crosshairs on them and having your bullet go exactly where you're aiming, that takes some work and takes some dedication. So definitely want to go ahead and get in there, put in the time on the range, take a kid with you, take a relative, take a nephew, take a niece, just get them out there, expose them to the shooting sports, teach them the value of gun safety. And Michael, that's a good segue for you to go ahead and get that out there to our listeners.
let's do this. All right, first rule of gun safety is every firearm is loaded until you visually and physically verify that it is not loaded. Rule number 2 is you keep that barrel pointed in a safe direction at all times. Do not cover anybody with the muzzle. Do not cover anything you do not wish to destroy with the muzzle. Rule number 3 is know what your target is and know what is beyond your target at all times. And rule number 4, the most important rule, is keep your booger off the bank switch until you are ready to discharge the weapon.
There you go. Down and dirty, the 4 rules to keep you alive.
As we were just speaking about hunting, something I wanted to get into, you were talking about things that have no limits. Well, I'm in the middle of hog country here, and there's no limits on hogs here. And just wanted to give a kind of an awareness to maybe if you are going to have the opportunity to go hog hunting, you've never had it before, kind of be aware of what's near your area and what those hogs may be eating and running through. I would kind of stay away from hogs that have been running. I mean, go ahead and shoot them because they are a pest, but I would stay away from eating hogs that have been through, I'd say, GMO cornfields. I just don't think I'd eat that. I'd also stay away from hogs that have maybe been through a field that's been recently sprayed with some sort of Roundup or weed killer. I have a tendency to stay away from that. So kind of like be aware of what your area is and what's surrounding your hunting area. Not necessarily for your target, but for what your target is eating.
Well, and that's the thing. You take a look at an invasive species like a wild boar. You've got something that can basically destroy an ecosystem, and it has the ability to reproduce after 6 months of age. And not only reproduce after 6 months of age, but can reproduce, 4 months after it's gone, and
they have like 9 babies at a time,
eight to 10 piglets at a time. And for anybody that doesn't really know anything about the way that wild boars operate, they're matriarchal in the sense that the leading female is in charge of the sounder, wherever she goes is where everybody follows. And the larger boars, the males, they're more solitary once they split off from that group. Good tip for folks is that if you get into contact with a male boar that you see has a lot of clumps, you definitely want to shoot him. But if he's got large clumps of fur and mud, he's probably very close to his mating cycle. And if you shoot him and you plan on using him for anything other than sausage, you might want to
be careful.
Yeah, be careful opening him up.
This is, it is radio, and this is the fact of life. Male pigs produce quite a large amount of sperm.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that if you ever want to make sure that nobody goes hunting with you again, have them open that pig up and have them cut that back, and you spray somebody with that. That's not going to go over very well.
Yeah, You've just lost a friend.
Yeah, you probably may lose some teeth in the ensuing to get this off of your person.
And nothing is really any kind of grosser than getting punched in the mouth with a fist covered in pig sperm.
That's something I wouldn't want to think about. But we're a family friendly show out here, or so I've been told.
Well, and it is. This is something. This is something that the nature, just the pure aspect of nature. And pigs reproduce, humans reproduce. There are reproductive organs. These are things that the Creator endowed us with. Animals have them. It's a part of life. Why should it be something that's kind of a taboo topic? I mean, it's like anatomy, really.
Well, it is, and that's one of the things that I think, being able to see, your bullet's performance. And I rarely am able to recover, my rounds from deer. I have been fortunate enough to recover my rounds from pig just due to the density of their bone structure, the amount of muscle that those bullets have to penetrate, and the thickness of their hide. And I will tell you that if you want to see how your bullet performs, if you have a chance to shoot a pig and you can go ahead and recover it, that is a good indication of whether or not what you're using is good for that target or not. Because I've had some opportunities to recover those rounds, and you hear about the mushroom of the bullet. Well, I can tell you what, when they hit a boar and they hit him on the shoulder blade or they go through the neck, there's no mushroom. It's just a small pile of jagged lead.
Yeah, the bullet disintegrates. Hey, listen, we got a real quick question. This is kind of aimed at you because you actually have far more hunting experience than I do, and you've got like hunting school behind you. What about trichinosis in wild pigs?
So here's my recommendation. Trichinosis is a very, very, very bad infection that wild boars do carry from time to time. If you're going to harvest a boar, there's no way for you to be sure whether or not your boar is safe unless you conduct a veterinary inspection. And you will have to go ahead and remove samples of the boar. Now, granted, where I was hunting and where I learned how to do this was overseas in Germany, and it is a legal requirement for you in order to be able to sell boar. You have to go ahead and have that veterinary tested to make sure that the quality of the meat doesn't have any contamination. That bacteria can cause death, and it's not like hey, he went to sleep and he just didn't wake up. It's a painful death. You'll have symptoms that look like jagged skin patches, rough patches of skin. Your eyes will go yellow. Fevers, vomiting, nausea, all the good fun stuff like you're drunk. But you definitely need to conduct that veterinary inspection before you consume any wild boar that you shoot. And you take a sample from the tongue, take a sample from the legs. You want to get as many samples from the whole length of the animal, so that way there can be a definitive diagnosis of whether or not that pig was infected.
All right. Are there any kind of weather concerns? Like they say you should need shellfish in the months that have an R in them.
Yeah. So the biggest thing that I think that any hunter or anybody that's taking game needs to be aware of, that taking the shot and putting the bullet where you want it to go is the easy part. Because once that bullet leaves your barrel and hits its target, that's when the work really begins, because you really need.
Yeah, that's right. Have a good knife.
Yeah, you definitely need a good knife. I would recommend that you have a quick bone saw, and you want to get that animal opened up and cooled down as quickly as possible. And where did the time go?
Nick, this was incredibly fast. Everybody, thank you very much. UCY.TV, your home for stuff you don't get anywhere else. Please listen. Hit that PayPal button if you can. Guys, thanks a lot. We'll see you again next week. Buy a gun.